Do you ever draw something that looks so off that it puts you immediately into art block? That was the case for this large Illo sketchbook I started to paint the cover of, and then immediately shelved it away for months because the cover was coming out so bad that I didn't want to finish it. Until today. Hello everyone, my name is Mimi and welcome back to my channel. I am an artist and self-taught animator that loves storytelling and my own characters. In this video, I decided to take another shot at painting the sketchbook cover featuring my OCs that I had big plans for. I decided to give the sketchbook one more chance at life because I had the smallest urge to start using the sketchbook again. But anytime I looked at the cover, it frustrated me because it was just an unfinished mess. I could have just put stickers over it, but I decided the best course of action was to finally sit down after a long time of analyzing what I could do better and finally start the sketchbook cover over. I wanted to preface this video by saying I wish when I was painting this whole cover that I actually put down a base behind everything. I didn't exactly do that because I already had my sketch of my knight character and my prince character, Matt and Emil. I wanted to keep the original idea, the original sketch, and if I painted over it, I felt I would not be able to just jump and work off of what I already had, which would have probably been fine. It's just a personal preference that I really wanted to keep the original sketch intact so I could paint directly over it and go from there. So instead of actually using like some kind of base, like acrylic paint, white paint, I decided to just go in with my Artex acrylic markers and try and fix it up and see if I actually like the outcome in the end. And I actually really do. It's probably one of my favorite things I've ever painted. So I am definitely using this sketchbook more because I wanted to use this originally for bigger pieces because my current sketchbook is smaller. It's not like a square shape. So I felt I had a lot of room in the sketchbook, but for what I was doing previously, it felt a bit too big. But now that I'm more into painting, etc., I really want a big surface area. So this is why I decided to try and revive this sketchbook that I kind of abandoned because anytime I looked at the cover, it just demotivated me from working on it. So I was like, you know what? Today's the day. I'm gonna sit down and finally finish what I started so I can open the sketchbook with peace and ease of mind that the cover is not something I have to work on. So as you can see, I am using the Artex acrylic paint markers, which is just a marker with some acrylic paint in it. In the start of this whole little sketchbook painting I did, I decided to just go over what I already had and just fix up what I needed to, change the proportions if I needed to, because the markers are super opaque, but they're not so opaque where if I try to use it on directly the black background of the sketchbook, and it just takes quite a bit of layering. I think I did maybe more than 5 layers for certain colors. In the end, I think it was really worth it. I do kind of like the texture it gives off instead of just having a background white base, but I still wish I did it because it would have saved a lot of time and probably saved my markers too, because I don't think that some of these are gonna last another project like this. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, this is an Illo sketchbook, and this is actually the first one I've had. I don't hate it. I actually just didn't use it for a while because the size was a bit intimidating, and then I started to draw this cover and paint it, but then I just wanted to draw more instead, so I just did not use this as much as I wanted to. So I'm kind of hoping I can rectify that and use this more for like paintings and gouache, etc. And just see what like materials this sketchbook might work with well. It's kind of just like, wow, I want something big to draw in. I have this. I stopped using it for this reason, and now I can try and fix that and use it again. As I mentioned before, these are my characters. They're a knight and prince kind of like pairing. The name of my prince character is Matt or Matthias, and Emil is his knight, who is the blonde guy in the little suit of armor. I originally planned this painting of them, I think maybe late December last year or early January this year. It was just like a cute little painting. I think I found a reference photo on Pinterest of just two people looking at each other, and then I was like, okay, this can fit. Because I wanted to feature them on this cover of my sketchbook because like they're my favorite thing right now. I love them so much. I've loved them for like the past 2-3 years. So I basically wanted to highlight them because they are very much the foremost thought in my brain, like almost 24/7, I want to say. My gosh, I just noticed in the background, yeah, that's them. That little standee, that's their older versions, because there's like a time skip between their prince and knight era and then their little mercenary reunited era. We're also gonna pretend I totally don't have their ship name written out behind this footage. So yeah. You can see I'm trying to fill in the background with the Artex markers, and it's just a basic solid like blue color. It was a workout for my arm to try and layer in all these colors. It took, I think, more time to layer and get everything looking like slightly solid instead of just the sketchbook cover background than I think do like shading, line art together. It was quite an effort. But that kind of breaks down my process a bit because I was basically trying to fix the proportions of the sketch I had done in white gel pen underneath and fix what I already had with Emil's face because I didn't particularly like it, which is why I also kind of gave up on this painting originally. But yeah, a lot of this beginning process was trying to make a lot of the acrylic marker layers more opaque and try to just fill in like solid colors so I had a good base to work with, because I didn't want to jump in, start getting like super focused on the face and then give up basically again on the rest of the body or the background. And at some points while I was drawing this, I think, yeah, literally like this beginning stage, I was like contemplating like, should I finish this? Because the layers are not layering and I'm worried I'm gonna like ruin my markers. I'm worried that when I do eventually get to shading, I'm not gonna like it and then I have to just fix everything again. And I am proud to say that I stuck through it. This was kind of a big trust the process, but I still had plans and it came out really, really good actually. Yeah, like by the time I look at this completely finished, I am beyond proud of this, and I already have some plans I want to do. I want to do some like gouache painting in here. I just want to have fun in here again, and I'm really glad I was able to finish this and start doing that. This part right here where I start drawing the clouds, it was a big like, I'm basically taking a risk here. I couldn't remember if there was a cloud in like my original plan because there wasn't actually one sketched out, but I knew that I needed some kind of contrast to let Matt and Emil be the focus because they were kind of blending into the background a little bit. And I wanted to highlight their faces specifically because that's like the most important part of the piece. Like they're looking at each other. Emil's kind of nervous. Matt's kind of like curious. It's basically about them, not about the background, not about the foliage. So I left parts of the background more intact with like the leaves and everything. And then I decided, okay, I need to make them stand out more. So I added another cloud and I added this white outline around them, sort of ground them compared to like them blending in with the background way too much. And eventually I was just like, okay, this is looking decent, not perfect. I'm still in the base layer phase, I guess. So at this point, I basically was like, okay, I'm gonna stick to this. I can finally fill in the layers, make them more opaque. I can try to do a little bit more details to figure out if I want something to look a little bit different, but not. It was basically, this was the idea. This was it coming to fruition with the colors and everything. And from this point, I was basically just fixing proportions, trying to make the layers a little bit darker until I took a break. Until later that evening, I came back and I decided, okay, time to just do some cleanup, darken the layers again, make them more opaque, and then I'll be golden to start doing line art. And for line art, I used a Micron pen, which I think comes with their like Sakura Micron set. But this one is specifically like a pen. You can vary the width of your strokes to make it a little bit thinner, a little bit thicker. And I honestly just like this because I love using pens. So it's not like a tip fine liner brush compared to their other stuff. You also might be wondering why I was doing line art before I even started shading. And I'm wondering that too. No, but seriously, I wasn't sure how much shading I wanted to do. I thought maybe I would just do very simple things. So I started the line art with the Micron pen. I just wanted to get those details down before I started shading because I thought, oh, I'm just gonna do like blush on their faces, a little bit of shading for the hair. And that was honestly my plan stepping into the light art phase. There's no like big secret or tip that doing line art and then shading makes it look better. It was just like kind of a guideline for me to follow. So you can even see I did some cross hatching, but eventually I did go over that because I wasn't sure if I wanted all my shadows that were supposed to be the cross hatching, like pure black. I thought it'd be nicer to have like another color and just have bits of the line art and a lot of the line art itself just be that solid black color. I was initially a little worried with putting the Micron on top of the markers on top of this sketchbook cover that is kind of smooth. I was worried, okay, it's gonna smudge like a lot, but actually I'm pretty sure that the Micron pens are waterproof. So it didn't really do anything. If I let it dry for like less than 30 seconds or something, I would be perfect. It would work like 100% of the time. And yeah, even now, it hasn't smudged, which I'm so grateful for. I do want to eventually get maybe some kind of sealant. I just don't have any on me right now, so my sketchbook is unsealed, but it hasn't smudged. It hasn't done anything to make it look super bad. And if it does, in the meantime, until I do get the sealant, I can just use the markers to fix it up. It's really simple, and that's why I like them a lot, because They're very versatile, and you can just immediately save your shading, your colors, because the markers are so opaque, and a lot of colors are more opaque than others, which is really nice. So for this section of the video, I'm basically just doing line art and trying to basically ground everything, know where details will go, know what it will look like. It kind of gives me a clear idea of what the finished drawing and painting will look like, because sometimes when I go in directly with shading on top of base colors, things can get a little... They get a little disproportional, and then they kind of don't follow the original idea I had planned. So I thought, because I'm going to see this sketchbook cover a lot, because I'm going to start using it again, I thought, okay, I'm going to do this beforehand so nothing gets like messed up, and then I'll use this as a guideline, and then after shading I can go back in with this same micron pen and just fix up anything that might have gotten lost when I was doing the shading. I think I kind of took this approach even without realizing, because I am kind of first and foremost a digital artist nowadays, except for now that I've gotten back into traditional art within the past year. So what I'm trying to say is I kind of always have a sketch or line art visible when I'm drawing digitally. So I think the reason I kind of just latched on to using line art a bit earlier here is because I wanted it to look nicer in the end, and also just have that guide without getting lost in the process, basically. Sorry if I sound a little bit out of breath. I just had to lift a couple of 50-pound boxes of flooring upstairs because we're redoing all the flooring upstairs. So my filming setup might change a little bit. I might be in a different room, who knows, but if anything looks different the next time I post a video, that's why. So I wanted to take some time to talk about Matt and Emile before we jump into the shading aspect of this little painting. So Matt is the prince and Emile is his knight, and their whole theme, I would say, is basically defying destiny and trying to do things differently than what's been expected of you your whole life, which is why later in their story, after a time skip, Matt is now the ex-prince of his country, and Emile is wanted and a mercenary. So they basically have their whole lives when they're younger basically planned out for them. Matt is supposed to be the future king of Midgard, and Emile is basically like his right-hand man, supposed to help him rule and basically be his personal knight and still have like those duties to help him become king and rule as king. And of course, yes, they are deeply in love. Of course. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of this drawing. Like, they're having a sweet little tender moment in like some kind of floral-y background, and Matt is just staring at Emile, like kind of like curious, but also a little bit like nervous, excited. And Emile is just like kind of lost in his eyes a bit, like staring back at Matt and being like, oh my god, like he's so close to me. And also it's like, wow, he's so pretty, etc., etc. Okay, so I took a little time to go in with the acrylic markers to try and fill in a lot of the white space and like a lot of the sky and Matt's outfit and Emile's armor, because the markers weren't fully opaque within the first few layers, so it took me like quite a bit to try and fill everything in. It looks a lot better. I just wish I went in beforehand and put down a layer completely in like white acrylic paint as like a base to work with, because we're just basically using markers on the sketchbook, which is fine. It's just quite a bit for what I wanted to do, so I feel like I'm like wasting my markers. So I think, yeah, this is the next day. So this is the second day I'm working on this, and I actually started shading. And initially I kind of just kept it safe, did the places I knew that I wanted to do shadow from the beginning, like that little shadow underneath their neck and like their ears and underneath the hair to make it look a little bit more, not exactly 3D, but have a little bit more form to it, which it kind of needed at this point. Beforehand, it was kind of just a bit flat, which I thought maybe the line art could also help fix, but I realized, okay, you know what? If I'm going to shade it, I kind of want to go all out. So this is when I decided to do a lot of like my traditional paint marker techniques onto this, even though normally I wouldn't have like a black line art already there. So it was kind of interesting to do it this way, honestly. But yeah, I eventually went in with some like blush, as I'm doing here. And I knew I didn't want it to be exactly solid cell shaded, but I felt like I'd rather get in a lot of those blocks of color that change and then go back and try to do a little bit of blending, but not any kind of massive blending. That would be kind of overkill at this point. And this is also the point where I kind of started using the cross-hatching I did that kind of represented shadows and actually turned them into like the actual different color shadows instead of just keeping it as cross-hatching, which I'm really, really glad I did. Like, I do like some of the cross-hatching looks, so I try to add back just a little bit at the end, but I think this was the best decision because it helped add a lot more colors that the piece I think lacked initially before this point. But yeah, I did kind of get a little bit torn on this piece initially because I wasn't sure if I wanted to do something else. Right up to before the shading, I was contemplating like, oh my god, should I have done something a little bit more like dramatic or with more detail instead of just Matt and Emil standing next to each other and looking at each other. I'm really glad I actually came back to this because I think personally I see a lot of artists have like work in progresses, even myself, like I'm guilty of this, and they have a lot of work in progresses that they kind of get to a certain point where it's like, okay, this isn't coming out right, or I don't want to work on this anymore, or for any reason whatsoever, they just stop working on it and leave it unfinished. And it kind of gets to that point where it's like you might think about like restarting it or just like redoing it, but it's kind of like that feeling of like, oh, I did this. I attempted this before and it didn't work out. I don't really want to try again. Or if I did try again, I would start from scratch. And I think, like, even I do this, and honestly, it's not really doing myself a favor, because if I already have something I've worked on, and I do want to give it, like, another chance at life, like the sketchbook cover, it makes more sense to just continue. And continuing doesn't mean that your art has to look exactly like it did before. Like, you could do something like a paint over where you just take the piece you have, like what I did here, and even do this digitally and just paint over it, like make it look better. And I feel like you can even do this with finished pieces that are old and it's like you want to redo it, but you're a little intimidated maybe because you don't want to start it again. And I think, honestly, something you could just do is take that piece you finished or you're still working on that you gave up a long time ago, and just sit down, open it, make a new layer if you want, make a backup, and then just work on it. Just do what you would have done differently. And there's really no shame in going back to something like this and just giving it another chance. Like, I think art doesn't have to be finished if you kind of didn't succeed in it. Like, you can always come back to it. And I think that's really important, especially in an age where a lot of work in progress pieces might see the light of day and a lot don't. But like, that shouldn't necessarily be the last time you do anything with that idea, because I just think it's really nice to maybe give things a second chance and also see, hey, can I do better this time? And honestly, yeah, you probably can. Like, there's really, again, there's really no shame in just trying it and seeing if it's something you want to do. And yeah, like, in the beginning of this video, I said this piece made me get massive art block and stop using the sketchbook entirely until I decided to come back to it and fix it, and I fell in love with it again. And there's really no harm in just picking up like abandoned projects, reworking them. You don't necessarily need to start over from scratch. It's like, yeah, you already put in the work. Why not use it to your advantage? Like, don't just scrap it because you're like, oh, this is ugly, I don't want anything to do with this. You're not doing yourself a favor, and you're kind of being a bit harsh to your past self, because I think you can kind of just use your own work that was like older to basically elevate your new work. I think it's really an easy way to do that. And I think it's also a really good way to get out of art block too. Like, doing this sketchbook cover has instantly, I think, gotten me out of an art block that I was heading into again. But yeah, it's just like, it's fine. It's fine to work on old things. Like, there's really no one telling you can't. It's just kind of like a common thought where it's like, oh, I failed. Why would I try to continue with the failed attempt? But there's a lot of ways you could work around that, and this was one of them. I just took my markers and I painted over everything until it looked right, and it's the way I wanted it to come out, which is great. There's definitely more ways to get out of art block than just trying to use your old art and remake it. There is like a lot of ways I personally get out of art block, and that could be something like trying a different material or something that I don't normally use all the time. Like, for example, I think traditional art really helps me to get out of art block in its entirety as like a whole, because I'm a digital artist. I mainly draw on my iPad and animate on my iPad. And sometimes when I'm just like, I have no clue what to draw, I will resort to picking up my sketchbook, picking up a material that I haven't used in quite a while, like watercolor, gouache. For me, recently it's gouache, but that, just like using it, messing around with it, giving yourself like the freedom to be an amateur and mess up, it's really nice. It helps you get out of art block, or at least me personally, like almost instantly. Another way I try to get out of art block that is a bit successful for me is related to redrawing like old art, but more in the sense of like anime screen cat redraws, like show movie redraws, but put like a little twist on it and draw it as like my characters, which is something I do a lot because I love them a lot, and also it's like kind of mindless. You already have the source material in front of you, and the only thing you're thinking of changing is like the characters, and it's kind of a very easy not a lot of thought put into it redraw, which is nice when you're super art blocked. Oh my gosh, yeah. You can see, I wanted to point out in this segment of the drawing, I thought maybe I could add a gradient with like a lighter blue, but but I couldn't really get it to turn out the way I wanted to, so I kind of just went back over with the solid blue marker, and then I started focusing on the leaves and the foliage since I knew I wasn't really going to touch the background colors too much anymore, other than to draw in some shading on the other cloud I added a while ago. I thought maybe about leaving the background less detailed. I thought maybe I shouldn't add the shading for the clouds, but then I realized I liked it a lot more after. It's kind of like I was just taking a little bit of a risk here because I wasn't sure if I would like how it would turn out, and I did. So after that, I kind of left the foliage alone because I didn't want everything to be super detailed, and I went back in and started lining and fixing up the line art with my Micron pen. So yeah, like I just went in with the Micron. I tried to darken up a little bit of where the areas of the initial line art got lost, and I basically just took my pen and outlined and just went back in and tried to fix up the line art from the first attempt I did, because yeah, it got lost a little bit in the shading, which I knew was going to happen, but I kind of was looking forward to just finishing everything up and adding these final details. Like this part was where everything really, really came together. And I really, really love how this piece came out. It looks so cute. I love Matt and Emil so much. Like, they've been through a lot, or they kind of will be once they get a little bit older. But yeah, I notice I usually focus on their older versions, which is it is them. There's no like AU or anything. It's just I like their older versions more because it's kind of more their true selves, but I do like to experiment, and I feel like their younger versions, and when I say younger, I mean like early 20s, mid 20s, those versions I feel kind of get a little bit overshadowed by their older versions, which is kind of like mid-late 30s, which I draw a lot more frequently. So I thought it was just a nice little idea to draw the version of them that kind of gets a little bit overshadowed sometimes. And it's basically like that's who they are originally, before they come to the realization that there is more to life, there is more that we can do, and we're not just supposed to be what everybody says we are, which is a very integral theme to their whole story. And when I say story, I kind of just mean like the whole plot, everything, all the lore that's kind of in my head, because I often get asked like, oh, is there a webcomic? Is there like anywhere I can read? Do they have a novel? And the answer as of right now is no. They're kind of just little guys I have in my head all the time. I would eventually like to maybe do something with them. I'm honestly not sure what it would be, like what form of media. Like, would it be a webcomic? Would it be just some kind of like novel? Because I'm pretty okay at writing. Or would it be like a game, like a short little game, personal passion project? Like, I want to do all the above, but it is really hard to decide fully and be like, okay, I'm going to commit to this for a long time, because all I will say is Lord of the Rings was not made in a year or a few months. It took a long time, and I feel like it'll take me quite a while for these two as well. Look at them. Oh my god. I'm seriously so happy with this. I don't think I could be happier. Like, It looks amazing. Oh my god. Okay. So I'm definitely gonna use this more. That's like, I'm gonna use this right after this video because I'm so proud of this. Oh my god. But yeah, I will see you guys next time. I have some plans for some videos I want to do related to like using sketchbook stuff, but we will see. I don't know. Things can always change. I can always get sick for like 3 months again, but I just want to say thank you. Oh my god, my dog's barking. Okay, bye.